They told you the housing market was resetting in 2026. They said the frenzy was over, that the fever had finally broken, and that the era of impossible bidding wars had reached its conclusion. But for millions of renters in Cleveland, St. Louis, and Charlotte, the nightmare is just beginning. Suddenly, the montage stops on a high-resolution screenshot of a 2026 lease renewal. The numbers are staggering. A jump from $1,800 to $2,520. They told the public that the housing market was finally resetting in 2026. The Great Decoupling. By March 2026, a strange and devastating paradox has taken hold of the American economy. For decades, the price of a home and the cost of renting one moved in a predictable dance, following one another up and down the economic ladder. That dance has ended. We are witnessing the Great Decoupling. While the national median home sales price has hit a plateau, refusing to budge after the interest rate hikes of 2024 and 2025, single-family rents have surged by a cumulative 37.5% since 2020. This gap represents a fundamental break in the rent versus buy math that once governed middle-class life. With mortgage rates stubbornly hovering above 6% and lending requirements tightening, the path to ownership has been effectively barricaded. This has created a captive audience, millions of families who are trapped in the rental pool because they can no longer qualify for a loan. This lack of mobility has granted landlords a monopoly power over pricing that hasn't been seen since the Industrial Revolution. When people cannot leave, they must pay whatever the gatekeeper demands. Wall Street's permanent renters. The identity of the American landlord has undergone a radical transformation in the last 24 months. The era of the mom-and-pop landlord is being systematically erased by the rise of limited company landlords and institutional giants. In 2025, data indicates that a record-breaking 43% of all buy-to-let purchases were made by corporate entities rather than individuals. In specific Sunbelt zip codes, the concentration is even more alarming, with institutional investors now owning over 50% of all listed single-family rental homes. These new owners operate on a different logic than the neighbors of the past. They aren't looking for home value appreciation or a long-term nest egg. They are looking for monthly yield. They view your living room as a high-interest savings account and your kitchen as a dividend-paying asset. That yield comes directly out of the American paycheck, as algorithmic pricing software ensures that every possible cent of a tenant's disposable income is captured by the monthly lease. Surviving the 40% squeeze. The unseen core of this crisis is a silent trade-off happening behind closed doors. For every dollar that rent increases, the data shows that renters are forced to cut 39 cents from essential spending, specifically in food, preventive health care, and education. This has birthed the Hygiene Subscription crisis, a trend where the rise of hygiene-only gym memberships has become a canary in the coal mine for the 2026 housing collapse. Gyms are seeing a 20% spike in low-tier memberships from individuals who have a full-time job but no longer have a hot shower at home because they are living in their vehicles or rent-sharing in overcrowded apartments. When a nation's workforce is forced to subscribe to a gym just to maintain basic cleanliness, the standard of living has not just dipped, it has collapsed. The 40% hike isn't just a number on a lease. It is a direct reduction in the caloric intake and physical health of the working class. The supply lie. Government officials and developers often lean on the inventory illusion to calm the public, promising that more supply is coming to lower prices. But as of 2026, that construction pipeline has slowed to a crawl. High financing costs for builders and the rising price of materials have caused a 15% drop in new project starts compared to 2024. More importantly, the units that are being finished are not designed for the average family. The market is being flooded with luxury apartments and build-to-rent communities, entire neighborhoods designed by hedge funds specifically to be rented, never sold. This has effectively deleted the missing middle of the housing market. There are no more starter homes being built because there is more profit in building permanent rent structures. The supply isn't being built to house people. It's being built to harvest them. The death of the affordable city. The geographic execution of the American renter is no longer confined to the expensive coasts. In early 2026, the most aggressive rent hikes are occurring in the heartland cities that were once touted as the final bastions of affordability. Cleveland is seeing a 9.4% annual hike, Richmond is at 8.1%, and Birmingham has hit 7.5%. For the remote work refugees who fled New York or California in 2023 to save money, the trap has been sprung. These cities are now in the middle of a price catch-up. Landlords in the Midwest have realized they can charge nearly coastal prices because their tenants have nowhere else to run. The escape routes are being closed one by one as the 40% hike moves like a wave across the map, hitting the most vulnerable populations in the most supposedly cheap states. The hidden taxes of 2026. Even in areas where rent control or local regulations try to intervene, the junk fee economy has emerged as a way to bypass the law. In 2026, your rent might only show a 5% increase on paper, but your total monthly carry has likely jumped by 20% or more. Landlords are now implementing utility bundling, where they charge a flat, marked-up fee for water and trash, along with valet trash fees, credit reporting fees, and mandatory tech packages for smart locks you didn't ask for. These are, in effect, the hidden taxes of 2026. Regulators are struggling to keep up with these fee-stacking tactics, which allow corporations to report stable rent prices to government, while actually draining more cash from the tenants every month. The base rent has become a fiction, a starting price that almost no one actually pays. The government's paper umbrella. As the crisis deepens, the political response has been criticized as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. The Housing for the 21st Century Act, debated heavily in early 2026, proposes bans on institutional investors and limits on future corporate purchases. However, the truth is that these policies are designed to look good on a campaign poster, while doing almost nothing for the current reality. They only affect future purchases, leaving the millions of homes already owned by Wall Street firmly in their grip. The horse has already left the barn. By the time these laws take effect, the structural shift to a renter nation will be complete. The government is attempting to fix the housing market with the same tools that allowed it to break, refusing to address the reality that shelter has become a speculative asset rather than a human necessity. Winning a rigged game. Despite the grim data, there's a survival pivot that savvy renters are using to navigate this collapse. Winning in 2026 requires a change in strategy. First, many are learning the art of the 2026 multifamily negotiation. While single-family home rents are skyrocketing, some high-density luxury apartment buildings are actually oversupplied, leading to concessions like 2 or 3 months of free rent. Tenants are building hopping every year to keep their effective costs low. Second, a new migration is beginning. Looking at the few cities where the bubble has actually started to leak, Austin, Texas, which saw a massive surge in 2022, has seen rents fall by 3.3% in early 2026 as supply finally caught up with the hype. Finally, the rise of shared equity and community land trusts is offering a rare exit ramp. These models allow residents to own a portion of the land collectively, insulating them from the 40% squeeze and corporate greed. It is a slow, difficult path, but it is the only one left for those who refuse to be workforce tenants. The unseen choice. The 2026 housing collapse isn't a crash in prices. It's a crash in the American standard of living. The nation is being divided into two classes: those who own the land and those who pay to exist upon it. We are rapidly becoming a nation of workforce tenants, where the majority of citizens' labor is dedicated solely to keeping a roof over their head. But by seeing the data and understanding the mechanics of the exhale, you stop being a victim of the math and start becoming a player in the game. The truth is hidden in the fine print of your lease and the quarterly reports of the hedge funds. We have to map this collapse together to survive it.